When I was young and green, said Gordon, me and my brothers were painted olive green. It was all good in our time, but I prefer my blue paint now, as it feels like a proper engine.
Ah, Gaia, said Douglas. Oh, we used to be. All the engines where we came from were painted blue, but we were painted black in a sort of way, but I would prefer to be painted blue someday,
smiled Douglas.
I always loved being green, said Henry. I wouldn't want to be red as James, or people may think I'm a fire engine.
At least people see that I'm coming. At least I don't blend into the forest and the grass like you do, Henry.
Oh, will you take that back?
Said Henry crossly. But it was too late. James had already gone to sleep, and Henry had decided to go to sleep himself. But he thought of a plan how to pay James back. The next morning, Henry was in a bad temper. He banged his coaches fiercely.
Oh!
They went, "What's up with him?" At last, Henry had set off. He puffed through every station, backwards and forwards, biffing and banging his coaches as they went by. He banged them at the second station they got to. He banged them when he was coupling them for the next route. As the driver had fastened the coupling, they had set off again, but no one noticed that there was something rattling underneath Henry's footplate.
Come on,
said Henry to the coaches. All right, don't fuss, grumbled the coaches. Henry was going well, was puffing well, but then suddenly he heard a loud creaking sound.
That doesn't sound right. Something seems to be going on. Seems to be coming under my footplate,
said Henry, and then suddenly a loud crack came underneath Henry's cab and his tender. The driver and fireman looked in horror to see that the tender and the coaches were about a few inches gaps behind them. The driver and fireman produced steam and applied the brakes. Henry's tender and the coaches had automatic brakes, so they stopped automatically. There was a huge gap in between Henry and his tender. "Right, that's done it," said Henry's driver. "You've broken your tender coupling. Because of this, if you didn't bang those coaches fiercely, none of this would have happened." The driver went to the signal box to telephone for help, but then suddenly as he left, there was a fire had started from an ash that came out of Henry's firebox. It landed on the wooden sleepers near the rails, and then the fire got bigger and bigger.
Oh my goodness, yelled Henry. Help! Someone please save me!
The driver and fireman quickly ran back to see that Henry was covered in a cloud of ash. The driver and fireman quickly aboard Henry's cab to move him out of the way of the fire, and then they telephoned the fire brigade for help. After the fire had been put out, Edward came to take charge of Henry's express train. Henry felt rather embarrassed about what just happened. The workmen then gave Henry a temporary coupling, and he puffed home back to the yards.
"I do hope the shed is empty tonight,"
he puffed to himself. But it wasn't. All the engines were there waiting for him, as Edward had told the others of what just happened. But they remained respectfully quiet and did not mention about Henry's day. And that from that day on, Henry was also very careful, was very touchy on the subject of fire, and he never mentioned the term fire engines in front of James ever again. And I believed he had learned his lesson. Don't you?